agencies and a royal family, all right, at least that is still directing policy in a manner that most people can't comprehend because Rachel fucking Maddow never talks about it and Tucker Carlson never talks about it. But when you see the elbows that they're rubbing and the things that they're promoting, like you said, things like Palantir, like, you know, I saw that you had a little back and forth there with what is it? Thiel Capital's
Eric Weinstein.
Yeah.
What a hack that guy is. Did you know his hedge fund, when he made it the intellectual dark web and his theory of everything thing in like 2013, 2014, he was part of a hedge fund called the Natron Group, and they framed it as like, oh, this lowly man is now a well-respected like physicist because he made up this theory that actually doesn't hold water, and he didn't write a paper about it until this year, and it's been totally dismantled by actual scientists. But anyway, at the time, he was a hedge fund manager, and he co-founded that with like one of the main guys at Goldman Sachs in the 90s. And this is supposed to be the guy that cares seriously about Jeffrey Epstein's intelligence ties. By the way, Eric Weinstein met Epstein in 2004, and he's admitted this now, right? Mm-hmm. But at the time, he was a hedge fund manager when Epstein wanted to meet with him, and he was also a member of EDGE. Okay. And the reason Epstein allegedly wanted to meet with him was foreign currency trading, which was Epstein's, I argue, based on my research, it was basically his term for his shadow banking activities, because he was involved with basically manipulating currencies, which a lot of prominent slimy billionaires like George Soros and others and Joe Lewis have been, well known to have done throughout the 1990s and beyond. So it's interesting that, and then, but when Eric Weinstein came out and talked about it last year, he was like, yeah, I met with Epstein and I knew right away he was a construct, allegedly, but he won't say what he and Epstein talked about. And he won't say what it was about Epstein that made him know it was a construct right away. And why would Eric Weinstein not talk about how Epstein was such an obvious construct when he was arrested the first time? Why did he wait until 2019?
Yeah.
And by the way, Eric Weinstein currently works for Peter Thiel. He's a managing director at Thiel Capital. Thiel Capital is investing in this Orwellian nightmare crap, including brain machine interfaces and all of this stuff that Eric Weinstein claims to rail against. It's complete bullshit. Also, Eric Weinstein, a lot of his argument about Epstein and intelligence is follow the money, which is really ironic when at the same time he's saying that his boss, Peter Thiel, co-invested with Epstein in Carbine 911 along with Ehud Barak. I mean, it's just like, okay, dude, why don't you talk about that? You're going to follow the money there to your boss. And by the way, Palantir, which is like Peter Thiel's main company after PayPal, is an obvious CIA front. It couldn't be more obvious. And it wasn't, this whole thing about these guys and the Thielverse, as I call them, being libertarians is such shit. They are rebranded neocons. Literally the person who helped Peter Thiel set Palantir up was Richard Pearl.
Oh. What was it? The Prince of Darkness himself, right? Richard Pearl?
Yeah. The architect of the Iraq War, the guy that wrote A Clean Break from Netanyahu back in the late 90s and was like, you need to get the U.S. to overthrow Saddam Hussein for you and all of this stuff, and who was involved in a lot of crazy stuff in the Reagan administration too. Like one of the most disgusting neocons of them all, who also mapped out the current Orwellian nightmare in his book back in like 2004, where he talks about the need for like biometric IDs for everyone and all of this stuff, is the guy that helped Peter Thiel set that up, because Peter Thiel and him were trying to recreate the Total Information Awareness DARPA program that was being run by Iran-Contra criminals like John Poindexter. So that's what Palantir is. Yeah. So it's really ridiculous that Eric Weinstein is claiming to be an advocate against a lot of the stuff that, his boss actively is involved in creating. And, he's managing a big chunk of Thiel's empire at Thiel Capital. So, not acknowledging that, I think, is honestly pretty silly. And also the whole intellectual dark web thing is like, oh, we're, protecting free speech and all of this stuff. I have never once heard where Eric Weinstein say anything about the blatantly unconstitutional anti-BDS laws that are on the books in like over 20 states in the US. Where is all free speech created equal? Apparently not. But he's very, very blatantly pro-Zionist and pro-Israel. So maybe that's why. So I guess there's limits to the free speech, advocacy of this particular crowd.